Hello everyone, we are playing Microscope with the Gauntlet today. Uh, we're gonna start by establishing the first element about the place that we are creating today, the city of the Ram Priostos. So we will be playing with the Chronicle variant of Microscope. Microscope is a game in which you play the story of an event, of a people, of a place, or really anything else that can go through long periods of time, but we don't play on a chronological manner. We'll be jumping around and focus on different elements as we wish. In Chronicle, you explore the history of a single thing, how it changes over time, and how it impacts the lives around it. Your chronically might be about a place, an organization, or even an object. You could explore a struggling colony, that spooky old house on the wheel, a radical art movement, or a fabled sword that unites the realm. But we don't play, as I mentioned, in chronological order. We'll decide how the story begins and ends at the very start, then jump back and forth to explore the parts that interest us. Each of us can zoom out and make broad chunks of history, or zoom all the way in and roleplay together to explore the lives of the people who are part of our chronicle. And even though we will know from the start how the chronicle ends, each of us will have vast power to shape the story along the way. We'll explore the how and why that brings our history to life. That's what we'll play to find out. So, the first step on a game of Microscope is to create the big picture. So, the big picture for this game is the founding and the doom of the city of the Ram. And we have two periods that are defining the bookend of our story. So first we have the founding of the city, which will be light, and the revenge of the gods, which will be a dark period. Now, for those not familiar, time is broken down into three parcels. We have periods, which are big eras, and a lot of things happen within. And then we have events, which is a single dramatic situation that causes a fundamental change to the environment of our story uh, within the framework of a period. And then within periods, we have scenes. A scene is essentially is a question that arises for the about the interaction of the events with each other or with the great theme of the period, and it's a question. We can zoom in if we need to clarify how it's answered, and both either of period events and scenes, they all have a tone. A tone can be dark or light. This does not have to be rigid in its interpretation. It's basically when you create one of those things, you go with your gut feeling. If you feel that this is a good thing or a bad thing, or that even if it's positive, the mood might not be the best one. You how you feel if something is light and dark, you put the terms to it. The first step is establishing the palette. The palette has two columns, yes and no. And this is how we curate our taste. So each turn, we go around adding an element to either the no and yes parts of the palette. And we keep doing so until someone does not have anything to add to either. Then we finish the round and we proceed to the next part of the game. So we're gonna go on the order that you are on the screen to me. So I'll start, then it will be done, then Parham, then Will, and we'll be going around. And the first thing I'm going to add is a no. I don't want easy magic. I want magic to always demand a price. Actually, I'll rephrase that as an yes. Magic always demands a price.
I'd like to put a yes on the palette of oracles and prophecy. It looks like I have only view-only access to this. Would you mind giving me edit access?
It's always every single game, sorry. Okay, and this link should be fixed for everyone.
Ah, great, thank you.
So next, Parham.
Yes, sorry, 1 second. I'm trying to open the new link with the open access, but so generally what I'm going to add is to the no section. I don't want to see a hero. I think it would be great if characters were kind of gray in the middle, so not a very awesome, always does the right thing kind of character.
So no perfect heroes.
Yes, thanks. That's a great good way to put it.
I think you're edited in the wrong place, Parham. Or whoever Anonymous Rabbit is. But I will add away from where all this typing is taking place. I will add, I want survivors outside the city in the yes column.
Okay, yes. Okay, keeping with those themes, I want to have how to verbalize it. I want to have gods, but that they don't really relate like human beings or animals, that they are present, but at the same time too distant from the actual experience of people.
What would be the best way of saying it?
Yeah, that's what I'm struggling with.
I mean, distant gods, but then that implies that they don't take an active role, whereas
But
they
do.
unleash an apocalypse. Yeah.
Uncaring, maybe, or
or unrelatable gods.
Alien gods.
Alien gods. Yeah. I mean,
alien. We're literally aliens.
Unsympathetic gods.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put that.
Oh, yes, unsympathetic, aloof. Yeah.
And by the way, did I put that in the right place now, or do I still need to change it?
Yeah, it's on the no now. Yeah.
Thanks for the feedback, by the way.
No worries. It's up to you, obviously, but if you would like, I'd be happy to write in the stuff that you say. But it's
Oh,
up
yeah,
to you.
that would be even better. I can just keep on reading, and then you do the writing. I think that goes even faster.
Yeah, cool.
So then, any idea?
Let me see. Keeping in line with gods, I would like a sort of continually developing pantheon. Gods sort of shuffle in and shuffle out as time goes by.
I wonder what makes that possible in terms of maybe something else comes out of that we can add to a yes or a no. Like how would gods change? Or do we want to get to this level of detail, or is this just very high level?
That actually is a good question to answer in game, but you can already establish some answers to that question that you want to see or you don't want to see.
Okay. Maybe I think I want to see competition among gods, I think. Like probably some way of the gods being selected. Right? Like some way of fuse going on between gods themselves.
Yeah, and pitting mortals to play their little games.
Yeah. Well, I don't really have a preference over how they do play the game, like how they have the competition. But I think one way to describe that gods change is through competition. I don't have an idea on how exactly. So you guys, if you have any ideas, feel free to pitch them.
I mean, maybe the mortals have very little idea, and the gods just change among themselves, right? So we can leave that as a yes and a competing pantheon or a conflicted pantheon, perhaps.
So what I was saying was more like competing, as in
competitive, like they're competitive. Yeah, so competing pantheon. Then I guess that belongs nicely underneath developing pantheon. So it changes and it competes with each other. So like the fact that it changes implies that perhaps people can completely lose this competition rather than just be perpetual participants.
Yeah, true. But my point was more that the process of development is through competition as opposed to
that's
like
what I'm
competence.
saying.
Oh yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I feel like no's. What do I want in the no section? What I want in the no section is I think I might be good, like I think I might be done with the palette at this point.
Okay, so that means that all of us get the last edition. Then once it comes to wheel again, we stop. So keeping with the point of competing gods and getting alien gods, I would say that I want to see that the gods cannot intervene directly against each other. So they always need to play around and directly mess around with others. They're always competing, but they cannot outright just go at each other.
Yeah. I like that idea. I'm thinking what I can add to the notes. Let me go through this again.
So then,
I think in terms of magic, I don't want to see. So does Microscope have its own concept of magic? Because I haven't played Microscope before.
No, it does not have an innate assumption of magic.
Okay.
It's very broad.
Okay. I don't want to see any way of. So we said we want prophecy, but and let me know if this goes against that. I don't. I think it would be great if we didn't have a way of foreseeing what the gods wanted to do. So like, I'm not sure how you can have prophecy in that sense. Would that even make sense to you guys? How would that work?
I'll defer that to Dan, since he was the one adding oracles and prophecy. What he had in mind.
Yeah.
So Dan.
Oh, I think that makes sense. I think one of the cliches of prophecy is that X might come to pass, but we don't know how, or it may not. It never seems to be what it is on paper, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And none of these prophets have to be accurate or real at any point. I just think it's an interesting cultural phenomena.
Yeah. Okay, I'm fine with that then. Adding no way of, I guess, I don't know. Is there a shorter way to phrase this?
Yeah.
Perhaps it's like explicit and accurate prophecy in the no column. Because it's saying that prophecy is always ambiguous.
I mean, mostly, I think what makes it fun is that you don't know what's going to happen in this indirect meddling. I mean, maybe we can have like more like lower level prophecies, let's say, as in, yeah, maybe tomorrow this happens or next month that happens, but not in grander scheme of things where God might change or like something big might happen, if that makes sense. This is not like, oh yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Perhaps prophecies can only see what happens on the earth and not in the heavens.
Maybe gods are outside of the tapestry of fate or something.
Yeah. That's perfectly what I was saying.
So then, what is your last addition to the palette?
In the no column, I would like to place evil for evil's sake, or evil for the sake of creating chaos. I think no one thinks they are a villain in their own story.
Yeah, that's a good counterbalance to perfect heroes. And Parham was the prophecy cannot see the heavens.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think it's Will again, so we are done with the palette. So, quick review. So, magic always demands a price. Oracles and prophecy. Aloof, uncaring alien gods. Survivors outside of the city, developing pantheon, competing gods, and no perfect heroes, no direct action of gods against other gods, no prophecy can see the heavens, and no evil for evil's sake. Those are our palettes.
Sorry, is that an evil for evil's sake in the yes section?
Oh, in the no section.
Or in this? Okay.
So now we're gonna actually start playing the game. So this is going to be similar. On each of us of our turns, we can create a period, an event inside the period, or a scene inside of an event. And there is an exception to that rule. One character has the focus, is the lens, and the lens has the focus. So the lens creates a theme that every single event, period, and scene has to connect somehow. This can be very loose interpretation. It's just a creative tool to tie back to it. And the lens can create two things as long as one is inside the other. So the lens can create an individual thing like everyone else, or they can create a period and an event, or an event and a scene.
This was too much over my head, so I'll just let this unfold in action.
So there is, I think the best way to understand it is it's nested. So like what the lens does is they can create the big picture and then the tinier event within that one. So it's like nested within the bigger period.
Okay.
Yeah, this will become more natural as it's way more complicated to explain it than when actually done. So I'm going to start as the first lens. So I create the focus, and because of what we were talking just now, my first focus is going to be prophecy. So whatever is created on this round is related in one way or another to prophecy. Let me look at what we have so far. We only have 2 periods, the founding of the city and the revenge of the gods. And because we are playing Chronicle, the first time we create an event within a period, we also have to create an anchor, a character that is related to that. So I think I'll create an event within the founding of the city, which is the let's say the prophetic divination, the divination of the path to the divine continent that has not been touched by the apocalypse. That will be one of the events within the founding of the city. And then I'll create a scene with the question with which oracle predicted that. And as anchor, I'm going to create the captain, the captain that was responsible for leading the people, the survivals to the divine continent, and eventually finding it and founding the city, which I'm going to call Captain Arisa. So now we have a scene, and there is a way to solve scenes, which is zooming in, but so that we don't lose too much time on scenes, we're going to do it a different way. The purpose of a scene is to answer a question. So I'm going to say the question, and then I'm going to go around, and every one of you is going to give me a suggestion. And if I like the answers, I take one of those and we go ahead with it. If we want to explore more, we're actually going to zoom in and play different characters within the scene. So the question that I want answered is, which oracle predicted to divine the way into the divine continent of Felpis?
Are we taking it in turns to come up with something in the order that we were going to play, or shall I just jump in?
Just if you have an idea, just jump in. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I think one thing that
bring
might
up the name generator.
Oh.
Go for it, Parham.
Well, I guess is this just a name, or is this like a way of relations, like because so one thing that I was trying to figure out is where do these people come from before they even come here? so that there's a way to relate these people, like what was their structure, what, or if you just want a name, then we can just come up with a name.
You can establish the structure and relationship on the answer. That's actually more useful than a name.
Okay, yeah. So I guess the question, that might help us come up with this answer. And I'm not sure if we want to go to that now, but like, did these people, like, how many oracles did they have, or what, like, how did oracles even work? Was there a king or something that had its own personal oracle or something? Like, what is the standing of oracles even?
We did not establish, so you can actually get to establish that if you decide to add that as an answer.
Okay.
I have an idea.
Okay.
So, it is a young girl named Morlace, and she is just a simple orphan girl who was rescued by the captain, and she led him through disaster after disaster, and always seemed to see the way forwards. So she was not an oracle before, but she, perhaps they didn't even have oracles before. Who knows? But she was the one who led the way to the city through the path of the innocents, led them to the promised land.
Okay, that's a good one. Suggestions from the others?
I quite like that one. Let me see here. I think a woman named Bastion, who is an apprentice in a city's union of oracle workers, is the only one to predict a cataclysm and leads the captain away against the advice of all of her superiors.
Interesting. Parham?
I don't really have an idea that is as in-depth as what Will said, so I guess I'll digress.
Do you have a favorite that you want to call your favor for?
I think I'll go for the Union of Oracles, because that gives us more to play with, because unions are always fun.
Yeah, my bias always leans towards unions too. I like the implication of that, even if I really like it, Wheels. So we're gonna go with that answer. So then feel free to add the answer, write it down, and then give it a tone between dark or light. Okay, and those were my creations. So as the lens, I created an event, and then I created a scene inside this event. Now, going by order, then we'll be able to create a new period or an event or a scene within what we already created.
Give me just a moment to type out this answer. Union workers.
And I want to remind everyone that the current focus is prophecy.
I think I have an event. Going off of prophetic visions, a small cult forms, the cult of the Sandhogs, who begin excavating vast underground infrastructure, not knowing entirely why. Does that make sense? Sort of they're creating a tunnel network beneath the developing infrastructure of the city.
So in which of the two periods are you going to do it?
Oh, amongst the founding of the city. Let's see here.
So, but wouldn't the question then be, how does Captain Ariza fit within that? Because
was
as an
going to say
anchor, we have to.
You're right. All right.
Is she against the cult? Is she in favor of the cult?
So you could also do this as a period. If it's like a case of, works begin beneath the city, kind of thing.
I think that makes sense. Yeah, let's begin that as a period.
Then that period would have its own anchor, I guess, or.
Yeah, but it's the first person that creates an event that creates the anchor. But yeah, it will have its own anchor.
Okay. So this is a period inside the period of the founding of the city, or is this like somewhere in the middle?
Yeah, it's between the founding of the city and the revenge of the
okay.
So all periods essentially just exist in between existing periods. So you never really have like a fixed timeline. You just kind of like, it's flexible,
Yeah. No, so I was trying to figure out the Inception style of period within period. I'm waiting for that to appear. So.
And then, what is the tone of the period?
Let's say light. I think that's about right.
Okay, so while you are writing it, Parham, what are you thinking? You can create an event, a period, or a scene.
Sorry, for me, muting and unmuting is a bit slow, so sorry if it takes a while for me to respond. So for me, I think something that would be very important would be the forming of the leadership group of this city. Not sure, maybe, I'm not sure if this could be a period.
Actually, one thing I didn't know if that was clear. All of our things that we create should in some way relate back to prophecy as well. So I think with the cult, we can argue that that's their prophecies that have led them to dig underneath the earth, correct? But
so this is not a specific period, has its own focus. The focus is prophecy everywhere.
Yeah, and it's it's a tone, essentially, like a theme. That's it doesn't have to be very literal, but it has to relate to it in some way,
Okay.
So if it would be, for example, that you create a period in which there is the rise of the first leadership, prophecy has to play a role into that.
Yeah. So I guess one and help me turn this into like the right terminology. I think one interesting way to put this is the union of the, what was it, Oracle workers? Is that what you called them?
Yes.
Yeah, there is this internal fight among them because like they each, well, they probably split into groups of I think I've seen prophecies of this person being the best leader, or I've seen prophecies of that other person being the leader.
I have a suggestion. So it could be a period that there is derision within the union of oracular workers.
Yeah. And I guess the tone is more dark because it's an internal fight.
So will this be when? After the Sun Hogs, or?
I would say before.
So between they start digging and the founding of the city.
So I'm guessing that the first thing that you want to do when you get to a continent is figure out how this structure is going to work, like how the society is going to run. That's pretty much, I think, when the question of who should be the leader comes up.
Okay, so we're gonna add that period. Will, do you have any ideas? Sorry, Parham. What do you think is the tone?
Yeah, I'm going for dark because I guess in this period there's a lot of like unhappiness because everyone is trying to grab control.
Right. So the 3 periods we have are with the events in the founding of the city, division within the Union of Oracles, and the Sandhogs begin their excavations driven by their own visions. I think I'm going to go for an event, which is open civil war underneath the division within the Union of Oracle Workers. And the anchor I am going to make for that is, let me bring up fancy name generator in a slightly different tone, because I am not very good at coming up with names off the bat. Oh, no, that's far too. Maidon. So I will add that now. Maidon, the revolutionary oracle, who and his followers conduct open war on their rivals within the city, and that's an event.
And what is the tone?
That's dark again, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we went around, so it's the lens again. So the lens, once again, circles back. And I think I want to add a period, and I want to add an event within. So the period I'm going to add is going to be the return of the kings, which is going to be a dark period in which there is a prophecy that there is the threat of an autocrat seizing power and overthrowing the authorities that the city decided for itself. And the event within will be exactly the discovery of that prophecy. And a character for that, I think, is going to be someone that will see themselves as a king. So it will be a previous hero that now wants a little more, and her name is Archana. So I have that to write all that down. In the meantime, 2 things. Will you gonna pick a legacy, which a legacy is something that is going to echo through our story. So basically something, it can be related to the things that we created this round, or it can be related to anything else, even the palette. Basically, it's after this round, something that has echoes through history, like an order, a type of person, a localization, a god, something that will keep appearing over and over. And that will be the legacy. It's really something that, an idea for everyone to keep drawing and bringing back into the spotlight. And
is that like the next focus for the next round?
No. And then is going to be the next lens. So Dan gets to pick a focus. So Will and Dan pick respectively the next focus and this legacy.
So I just would, because the legacy is something that we struggled with in my games like over and over again. So with a legacy, it's essentially like an alternative theme that people can pick up, right, later on in the game.
Think of it like the legacies are a second palette. You know, if the palette is more generic, the legacy is like a palette of specifics of things that we already created. Also, when you create a legacy, you create an event or a scene.
Right, I see. And right, okay. I'm going to say the legacy is the words of Bastion. And the event is going to be the death of Captain Eriza. And Bastion, which that would be a scene, wouldn't it, to say that like Bastion delivers it within the death of Captain Eriza. But I would say maybe the death of Captain Eriza and Bastion, they both died together.
Yeah.
And yeah. So legacy is the words of Bastion. And I'm going to go grab my copy of Microscope and reread the legacy section.
Yeah, legacies are a bit, they are the least obvious ones. So then, what will be the focus now?
The focus of this round, I guess, is architecture, physical building, creation of the structures. I work. This is my field, so this is where I will tend to go. Let me see here, and I think I have an event that comes before the death of Captain Eriza and Bastion. I'm going to try this. I'm not great at formatting these documents. Oh, perfect. And this event is Captain Eriza and Bastion work out where the let me see, the central location for prophet workers or for prophecy workers will be in the city. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh,
so from what I see, she tried to keep some order, but apparently that crumbled the moment she died.
That sounds about right.
So when you say the words of Bastion, is that how do you say that again?
Bastion?
Yeah. Is that something she said before she died, or is that because was that something she was saying as she was dying? What was that?
I would say that it's whatever you want it to be ultimately.
Okay.
But what it is, generally speaking, is it's a legacy. So it's how that could be used in the future, right?
Okay.
So like the scrolls of Nostradamus, for example, or whatever you want to say, right? You could even argue that it's like someone says that they are the reincarnation of Bastion later on in the just to throw one out there.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
So then, are you going to create any nested scene within the event?
Let me see here. I'm looking for an interesting question. What is an interesting question? Here's a question. Are the negotiations between city leadership and the prophecy leadership, are they cordial negotiations, or do they get heated? Is that a fair question?
Well, that is a very good question. I have an answer. I would say that pretty much immediately after the union is created, there is a split between materialists and idealists, because immediately the prophets and oracles, the ones that are closer to the alien gods, they start to make demands that for the materialist elements of the leadership and the union make just no sense. I mean, the city is barely everyone has a roof, and you are starting with these arcane demands that make no sense to please the gods, and there is immediately this split between materialists and idealists. I don't like idealists. I'm not, because it can be confusing. Theists, but that's a bit weird, maybe.
I think theist makes sense.
Yeah,
they're kind of theists.
Any other possible answers?
I think one thing that to me looks like a possibility is that when you have people having prophecies and any sort of leadership, they probably clash very early, mostly because the leadership says, hey, do this, and the prophets say, no, we shouldn't actually do this because we've seen this vision of this is going to work out to our detriment in some form. So I guess like there is probably some what's the word? Like
Discord?
What?
Discord?
Yeah, or more like there is this back and forth that probably lasts for as long as the two classes exist, which is probably forever. So yeah, I think the way that would work is let me review your question.
I'm also trying to figure out a wording for my question.
What it been? I think maybe maybe this goes really bad, and one way that they decide to continue this is that the prophets demand a safer place, like more safety, and that's what starts the tunneling underneath the city, because that's underground where you protect them and they can have their own internal, like this is the leadership's way of, hey, here's a space underneath the city, go do whatever you want, leave us alone, and kind of giving them the control to do whatever they want, but like also getting them out of their hair, if that makes sense.
So the tone is like divisive but civil, kind of.
Yeah.
Like they draw a line between themselves and they break it apart.
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw out there that perhaps the tone of the negotiations is productive under the leadership of Eriza and Bastian, who everyone, all the people, the survivors, rally around these two figures who have led them and create a balance between the two.
I like all of these answers, but I think that's the winner. I quite like since the period is light. I think this is the beginning. We may as well keep it light, and a productive meeting, productive decision making is this is the place for it, I think.
So events have a light and a dark as well,
right? So. Yeah.
Okay, next will be Parham. Remember, the focus is architecture.
And what am I creating? A period or an event or a scene or any
period, event, or scene. So either at the macro level, a period that there is nothing above, an event inside the period, or a scene that is a question inside an event.
I think one thing that I'm really curious to explore is the death of Bastion and the captain. Wait, let me find his name.
Eriza, which I think Ludo had established as the she as well before.
Okay. So I'm curious to figure out. Okay, I guess this is a scene because this is a question. What led to their death?
That's a very good one.
What?
That's a very good question.
Yeah, because I think that's a very pivotal moment in the city. So the more we define it, the happier.
Also, I think it might be the focus might be more important on the answers than on the question on this case. So let's get thinking.
And how can their death be a light thing? I think is that a valid question?
So I put light as in that all things come to an end, right? And I liked the idea. I mean, obviously, the obvious assumption is that it's dark. You know, the death of people is dark. But I wanted to make it light because I wanted to challenge that idea of death always being a dark thing, and it maybe being a case of, you know, something that provided, as much as they did in life, provided some stability to the population, right? Like a state funeral often brings people together, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah, so this is not an unwelcome, out of the blue kind of death. This is more like, at least it had some positive effects on the city. It didn't throw everything into disarray.
Yeah, it had some sort of cementing effect. And so on that note, my suggestion is going to be that the death of Eriza and Bastion was of heart attacks, but what unites the city is it is exactly as Bastion predicted.
Okay, so she had predicted that they would die of heart
at these specific times or dates or whatever. What I mean is that, like, ultimately what it did was it reaffirmed belief in prophecy and in the words of Bastion, which we can play with later on.
Okay.
I would say that.
Oh, but wait! It occurs to me that perhaps because it has to relate to architecture, correct? That's the focus this time.
Yeah. Oh, good point.
So what I would say is that the prophecy was when we finish building the wall, the city wall, right? And it's literally like, as someone places the last stone in a thing, they both drop dead.
Okay. What about the other guys? Do you have any ideas?
I was thinking that at some point, as the first generation born in LPs takes positions of leadership, and Eriza no longer can sail her boat. They retire for the first farmland states on the countryside, and they die peacefully of old age on their sleep. And there is a big festival. It becomes the first holiday of the city, and the mausoleum that they build for Eriza and Bastion becomes the first stone building in the city.
So the wall is, what's the wall? Is that wooden or?
Well, that's a different timeline. These are
okay. Sorry. Okay.
Then you will pick which timeline is the real one.
Okay.
So then,
I think maybe in her last prophecy, Bastion convinces Captain Ariza that one of the early buildings, one of the first buildings, had some fault, and together they are able to evacuate any people in that building that were in danger, but they are both caught in, let's say, the collapse. They're both caught and killed in the collapse of this building.
And just to bring your answer a bit on par with the other ones, what happens a bit after, like short term? Because like other answers had a bit of, and it leads to
what makes it a light one, effectively.
Yeah.
Like,
what makes it a light one?
Yeah.
Well, there is the rescuing. It's also that crumbled structure is rebuilt into a looking for the right word.
Shrine?
A shrine.
Memorial?
Perfect word.
Yeah.
Yeah, memorial. Let's say there's a middle ground between a memorial and a shrine.
a shrine built in memory of someone.
Yeah.
And probably a bit that. Okay. I think I like the idea of them dying at the same time because it gives us a lot to play with later. So I guess I'm going to go for that one.
Because we all kind of established that they died at the same time.
Oh, yeah. No, sorry, yours. As in, they
cool.
just had this heart attack and died at the same time.
That's what I thought, but as I thought about it, I was like, wait, no, we all did exactly
Good point.
At the same time, the last stone of the citadel is put in place.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to run to the men's real quick. I'll be right back.
Actually, yeah, let's call a break, 5 minutes, and come back. And it will be Will's turn to make a scene next time. See you in 5.
What, sorry? Can you say that again?
Let's take a break of 5 minutes, and then it will be Will's time to create, to take their turn.
Okay, great. So see you guys in 5.
5.
If you were meant to be saying something, Dan, you're muted.
Okay, Will, what you gonna add?
Ooh, right. So architecture, event, scene, or period. Period. The Return of Kings. The Hero Arcana. Who would be Queen? Prophecy of the Queen. Revenge of the Gods. I the Sandhog. I like the idea of the Sandhog begin excavations. Right. That's got to have something about architecture in there, right?
So what do they find?
Yeah, event. Well, that's a great question. That's took it in a completely different direction than what I originally thought. But yeah, you're right. What did they find? I was almost going to say more in terms of like, the creation of a sewer system or something. But then I have to come up with a. You know what? I am going to do that. I'm going to come up with an anchor, who is let me just get my fantasy name generator thing back up, or the story names ones. No, I'm stuck in American names. That's certainly not where I want to be for any of these people. No, we're going to go back to fantasy name generator. And we're going to go to... where are you from, Ludo?
Portugal.
Portugal. We're going to go with Portuguese names.
Good luck spelling them.
The architect, Regulo, who so he is the anchor is Regulo, the architect, and the event is Regulo begins his great work. The what would be a good name for what would be a good mythic-y name for a sewer system?
Cloaca.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the cloaca of and I feel like that needs an intensifier there. What's the name of the city again? It's the city of
Rams, so that's RAM.
Yeah, the Rams cloaca. There we go. Yep.
Is that even a word, or did you just make that up?
The cloaca is the genitalia of several species, right?
Lizards and birds.
Ah.
Which also the name actually comes from a sewer system.
Oh wow! Well, there we go.
It went full circle.
Nice. And I think that is light again. Okay, I am just a heads up. On my next turns, I am totally going to be starting to lean dark, because I found this in my previous games of Microscope, is that people are quite nice to the things that they're creating and not destructive enough.
So, speaking of destructive things, I'm gonna say that I'm gonna add an event to the Revenge of the Gods, which is the destruction of the great port of Kriostos. It's going to be dark. And I'm gonna create a god that finally managed to turn the mortals away from LPs. And which kind of domain would this god have? I mean, sea would make sense.
Do gods have to have domains in Microscope, or Microscope is just like a more general thing?
Yeah, Microscope is more general, and we did not create any rules. They don't have to have domains at all. We did not create them.
Okay.
But
if Ludo says that the god has a domain, then we can take it as an inference that gods have domains, right?
Domain,
or a manifestation, a way that something that marks something that allows one to identify them,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's not necessarily a domain. So.
Oh, I think we'll need an anchor for that's the first event in that period, so we'll need an anchor for that.
Yeah, I'm thinking the god as the anchor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking of characterizing it a bit better. I'm gonna say that the god is going to be Nemet, the god of bountiful torment. Actually, no. Going back to the theme of architecture, I'm actually going to say that it's going to be Kemet, the god of architecture and stability. So maybe the one that's responsible for funding the weakness of the mortals. So next we go back to Dan to close the round.
Oh, remind me what I ought to do.
So you can create again something and a nested subcategory inside. So.
Oh, okay. Let me see here. I think I'm going to create a period. Let's see here. And a period in which we, as in the city, begins trying to explore outside the city. And a big part of this is creating the great port of Kriustos. The great outreach initiative. It sounds very.
Have you heard of the Avengers Initiative?
Oh, I was wondering when someone would ask. The Great Outreach Initiative and the event. Let's see here. We'll say, if it's all right with you, I'll put in the nested event construction. Copy and paste.
So because it's the first event, you also create an anchor.
Okay. Let's see. So our anchor, I think I'm suddenly caught on a nautical theme probably because we've been talking about ports and also the word anchor. Let's say the admiral is a seafaring term. Does that sound right?
Yeah, the commander of a fleet.
Admiral Voorhees. The
Born on Friday the 13th.
It did spring to mind. I don't know if that will become a a tonal problem or not. Admiral Voorhees of great. Tone, I think, boy, I tell you, I think the tone for both of these is light. I mean, it's hopeful. You're reaching out. You have enough. You have seemingly enough to take care of your own, and you're looking to find the outsiders.
Just to throw it out there, it doesn't necessarily have to be like that. It can be that you're so desperate that you've got to go further afield.
Yeah, this kind of questions, why do you need a fleet and a military leader?
You make a good point.
Maybe that's a thing.
Okay, so we round up. So we have to create a new legacy and pick a new lens. So the next lens is going to be Parham. So you want to create the next focus and start the next round. And this time I am the one picking a legacy. And this legacy, I'm going to add the legendary ship Vargas. And I'm going to add an event. Just let me see when. Right here. On the period division within the Union of Oracular Workers, Midden arranges that Vargas, the legendary ship, is lost at sea and disappears from the city.
Okay, I like that.
This is going to be dark.
Because also that happens before the outreach. So it's interesting that it happened that way around. So I was just reading through the Microscope book, and just to make it clear for like the play. So the way it works with Legacy is that on your go as a Legacy, you get to introduce your Legacy. But then when you make the event, or the period, or the scene, or whatever, it doesn't have to be the legacy that you just created. It can be any of the existing legacies. So you can introduce something that other players can pick up on later on. But like, for example, Ludo could have done the Words of Bastion as his event or period if you wanted to.
Okay, thanks. I think that helps. And for me, when I create a focus, do I have to then also create a scene, period, or event?
Yeah, first you create the focus, then you take your turn as normal. But you have the ability of the land, so that if you create a period or an event, then you can create the smaller frame next. So if you create an event, you can choose to create also a scene. If you create a period, you can choose to also create an event.
Okay.
That's the ability of the lens, yeah.
And you'll also get a second go at the end of the turn.
Yeah, where everyone else just has a single
this is
go.
my chance to make everything go my way.
Yes,
exactly, yes.
Yeah, because by the focus, you also, the team that you want to see, everyone has to include in one way or another. So this is the round in which you have more influence.
Yeah.
You've gone quiet, Parham. No, I don't mean you were muted. I mean that it was very quiet, so you just muted yourself, I think.
Oh.
There you go.
Okay.
You're back to being loud again.
Yay. Okay. Give me 30 seconds or so to think about this. Is this okay?
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's not an easy thing to think. So, yeah.
I really like the Chronicle. Like, I like the anchors and the scenes and stuff.
Yeah, I pretty much only play Chronicle almost exclusively.
Yeah.
I think I like Microscope, but I think the broader range of the normal one is a bit too much. And I have not been mad enough to try an Echoes campaign. I have really no idea how you play Echoes. That's just nuts.
Oh yeah, the time travel one. I would like that. I would like to give it a go, but I don't see how it would work. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I will have to dedicate an entire day to play that. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the last time I played Microscope, we did it the story of a city where AI was generated through like the interaction of smart infrastructure and distributed technology, and this would have made it this would have really made it sink, you know, like because we could have had the anchor being like the arrogant tech CEO or like the refugee from the climate like the way climate change had destroyed everywhere else or whatever, right? Or the AI network that identifies itself, but.
Also, Chronicle,
none of us had an Explorer. So.
Chronicle work very well with Kingdom. If you want to play back and forth between Kingdom and the Microscope, Chronicle works really well.
Wow, you guys are pros at this. Great. Okay. I'm going for the focus being betrayal. And the event I'm going to create is wait, what's the last one? That's the hero. Yes, the Return of Kings. I guess I think what I'm going to create is an event. I'm going to call that, I don't know, the angering of the gods. So this is where
do you want me to type this out for you?
Yeah, thanks. I'm at the right place, but I don't want to deal with the bullet list.
Yeah, this is beneath the Return of Kings, correct?
Yes.
Yes, cool.
So,
I'll just listen now.
Thanks. Oh yeah, this is when this new queen does something to anger the gods / the god, being what was the name? Nemeth. Yeah. And so that's the event, like I guess.
So some sort of betrayal, I take.
Yeah. So that would be, I guess, and the scene that I want to go for, like the question that I have is, what does the queen order to do that causes the gods or the god to be to feel betrayed?
I think until this point, in Kyrgyzstan, all the statues are either from the avatars of the gods or symbolic representations of them. And on her efforts to become queen and to prove her legitimacy, she orders that there is a statue of herself that is carved, and she puts it on the plaza where all the temples of the gods meet.
So this is her putting herself in the same place as the gods.
Yeah, that's how Nemeth interprets the statue.
Yeah. At least she didn't put herself above the gods, so that's great. Okay. Well, I'm
would you like to go first, Dan?
Yeah, I think she floods the tunnels. I think she puts something in place to destroy the tunnel network and anyone or anything that's taken up residence there.
Why does she, or is this a separate question? Or do you guys think we should go into why does that anger the gods?
I think especially especially Nemeth, the god of architecture and stability. This is maybe taking out one of that god's favored pieces, a piece of great architecture and stability.
Okay, makes sense.
So we don't need to know. Yeah. So I'd say in this case, it's like we wouldn't need to know why she does it, but why Nemeth is betrayed is the important part. So yeah. So my one is that Arcana rejects the gods and forbids their names in the city. Claiming the city is for the mortals, and the mortals have, and she, basically, a big fuck you to the gods, effectively.
Okay, I'm going to go for Dan's option because I guess that also leads to some people in the city. Okay, or maybe we can explore that in a different one. Yes, I'm going to go for Dan's option.
Okay, so next, is that dark or light?
It's very fun. People die. Things get flooded. No, it's dark.
Okay, next will be wheel.
Oh, sorry. One question before you go, Will. What is the point of the tones? Is this to say that this is a positive/negative event for the people, or is this like that the scenes all have to be the same tone in that?
Oh no, they can certainly be different. It's just a kind of it's kind of like to paint you the broad stroke when you look back at it, really. So that, like, for example, you can easily say that like she flooding the tunnels could be a dark one, right? But like if you could put it as light in the sense that it leads to restoring fertility to the surrounding lands that have been so it's very broad, and like you don't need to get bogged down in it.
Okay.
Like the destruction of a mighty empire might appear to be like dark, but it's light for everybody who they were oppressing, right? So yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
No worries. So for me, and the focus is a betrayal. I am going to add an event in the Revenge of the Gods. And the event, I kind of want to do a scene. I'll just do an event because I like this idea. The event is going to be Nemeth is destroyed by the other gods.
When is this?
At the very end, in the period, the Revenge of the Gods dark. And the event is maybe not even just Nemeth, actually. Maybe the gods destroy themselves, is what I'm going to say. And my implication there is, but we can save that for a scene perhaps later on, we'll say.
Yeah, because the question demanded is they cannot act directly, so how do they do that?
Maybe there was something in the city that was that they didn't realize was so important.
So is that light or dark?
I'm going to put that as light, to be perfectly honest with you.
Well,
we're better off without gods, you guys.
Yep.
I mean, they caused the apocalypse and now they destroyed the city. I mean, come on.
I mean, it's great. The next population that comes on will be much happier because all these people died.
So I think whose go is that now? It's down to you, Ludo, I think.
Or Dan.
Or Dan.
I don't know what the order is.
So it's me, Dan, Parham, Will. So it's me. Okay, so I'm gonna add a new period after the return of the kings, which is going to be the clan wars, or the clan's rebellions. So this is a period in which the people that started going out of the city and making homesteads and feeding the city, they are not as easily controlled, and they rise in rebellion against Arcana. Next is done.
Oh, let me see here. I'm looking for the period, the Great Outreach. I'm going to add a event in the Sandhog excavations, in which, let's see here, Regulo the architect is betrayed by a contingency using the tunnels as a home for their dark magics, and he is, let's see, I can't say how he's betrayed. I'm not sure how he's betrayed, but he is betrayed. My cursor was in the wrong spot. There we are. Anchor, Regulo the architect. Copy, paste. By a cult of, let's not say necromancers. Let's say dark magic practitioners, and dark magic for the sake of political power, not obviously just to do evil stuff.
So sorcerers, demagogues.
Yeah, so I love that. AGOGUES. Ooh,
man, I've had such a great idea with that. Like, maybe that's why she floods the tunnels.
Yeah. So is that light or dark?
I think I say dark. There we go. Oh, let me see here. My sound has gone out or mute.
Yeah, I guess I was mute. So Parham, now you get to go ahead and create an event, scene or period, and with the benefits of the lens that you can create one subordinate thing within.
Yeah. I think I'm going to create an event. And let's see, which period would this fit in? Period before. Yeah. I think this is going to be an event at the very beginning of the period Return of Kings. So before there was a prophecy about the queen, and this is going to be the people in the city realize that the death of Bastion and what was the name of the captain? Ray?
Eriza.
Yeah, was orchestrated. So, as in, to lend their words more power, they suicided to drive the point home. So it wasn't that the prophecy was true; they made it happen.
It was a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. So that's when they lose faith in the. Oh wait, maybe that's the scene. So yeah.
So could I phrase that as the people realize the betrayal of Bastian and Eriza?
Yeah. And I can create an event under that. A scene under that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yay, this lens thing rocks. Can I just be the lens? Okay, so the scene is what do people do after they find this out?
So the city walls was what was built on their honor or something?
No, the city wall was just what her prophecy was. She said, "When the city is surrounded, we will both die." And then, as the last brick was placed, they died.
And in this timeline, there was no memorial or anything.
Yeah, so
it was just like faith.
So what I would suggest that what the people do is they turn away from prophecy. They dismiss it entirely.
Okay.
I would say that the people go into the shrine where the words of Bastian have been kept and preserved and copied and read, and they cast out of the city the priests that tend to it, and they burn the words of Bastian.
Okay, and what about you, Dan?
Yeah, I think there is a political divide among people. Some people say regardless of this fact, we will stick with these words. We will still revere these people because regardless of whether it was planned or not, the prophecy did come true. And there are some people who don't go along with this, who plan to destroy the words of Bastian and the shrine.
Because we all did what I feel is like we all kind of answered in the same way.
We did.
To be honest, I'm just going to throw an alternative one out there, which is that they turn away from Bastian and turn towards the words of Maidon.
Which was?
He was the revolutionary oracle who started the civil war among the Union in the period 3 periods ago. So where we had the division within the Union of oracles.
Okay, yeah. I like the idea of throwing people who what did we call them? The prophecy workers.
Yeah.
Out. I think Ludo, it was you who came up with the idea.
Yeah. They cast them out of the city and burn the words.
Yeah, because I think now you have some people outside, some people inside, and like probably people think they want to go back, and I think that could be the cause of the whole rise of the queen and all of that stuff. But we can explore that. I think that gives us a lot to play with.
Yeah. Okay, now we ended up another round. So now it's Will's turn to be the lens. So you need to come up with a focus, and then you get to create a legacy.
I think for a legacy, I'd like to look at one of our clans outside the city. I'm going to call them the Mound Builders. And these are folks who survived the cataclysm outside the city and created a small, a clan that I guess has never stepped foot inside the walls.
So you create an event or a scene related to any of the legacies?
All right. Let me see here. I think Yeah. I think during the division within the Union of Oracle Workers, well, we'll say Maidan. Spreads alternative interpretations of the words of the words of Bastion, perverts the words of Bastion.
Cool.
So what is the tone of that?
Oh, the tone? I'm going to say dark.
Okay. What will we have for the next round, Will?
The focus will be outsiders. And now I'm just thinking about whether to make a period of time which is about outsiders, or an event and a scene together. And there's so many periods where this could work. I am going to put it in I'm putting it in an event sometime before the death of Captain Ariza and Bastion. And the event is going to be refugees arrive. Or, you know what, actually, I think it's more interesting to put that in a later period than the very founding of the city, where there would just obviously be more hands for the work, right? Whereas now, if I put it in division within the Union of Oracular Workers, I'm going to say that they arrive after the legendary ship Vargas is lost at sea. So before, so refugees from the Lost Lands arrive at the city walls. And I'm going to make a nested scene. And I'm going to say that's a light one because it provides us with evidence that the world survives beyond, in some sense, right? These aren't the last members of humanity. But the scene, the question I'm going to ask is, remember, this is a city that is rifted, divided by civil war at the moment between the Oracle factions. Is the question I want to ask is, how are these desperate people received?
I'm going to go for they are received with a lot of celebration, which is strange for in times of like civil war. But I think the reason for that is that they come back in the legendary ship, and the way that they find the ship reveals that this guy, what was his name?
Maidan.
Arranged for it to be lost, and that leads to like his some sort of judgment. I don't know what they do, beheading, hanging, some sort of like killing, pretty much. So yeah, and that puts an end to the civil war because like the one party pretty much loses its leader.
I would say that things seem to be going very well when they arrive, because everyone seems to be too helpful, but they quickly realized that both the legitimate government and the rebellions of Medan, they both plan to use them politically, and they decide that they don't want to become just numbers for these political blocs. And as soon as they are recovered from their travels, they depart the city, and they found the Mount clan by settling as far from the city as possible, and they are determined to preserve their own unique culture.
I think that the refugees are, and I don't like this because it's hitting me close to home right now. They are met with fear and derision. They are ghettoized, taken into the city, but are kept in their own quarters and are not allowed to leave. That's what I've got.
And just for my own information, Dan, is this a line/veil or?
Oh, no. This is how these folks are received.
Okay. No, you said hitting me close to home, and that's what I was asking.
Oh, I live in Texas, and it's what's happening right now at our southern border.
Okay.
Would it be now, Ludo? This is a GM question for a GM-less game. But what I'm going to ask you is, would it be okay to fuse two answers into one?
I would say yes, especially because I invented these roles. So yes.
All right. So, in fact, I think what I'm going to do is like an amalgamation of all of them. Is that they do come back in the legendary ship Vargas, right? Because I love that as an idea that they come back in the legendary ship Vargas. But this deepens the civil war, because if some quarters they receive a celebration, and in others they are met with fear and division, and ultimately fear wins out, and they are ghettoized. But that creates that political tension, much as we see in our own society today, right? Where it's not as clear cut as everybody hates these people. It's very much a case of the worst elements cause a strife and keep it this way, which I am hoping to leave the door open for an exodus to preserve their culture in the future. So I will fuse all of those together in my
So the ending is they are cast out, or they are accepted into the city walls and stay there? What?
No, the ending is at this point in time.
Okay.
They are seen as hope for the outside by many parties, but by others they are seen as something to fear. And ultimately, these poor, desperate people are isolated and quarantined off from the rest. They are treated as second-class citizens in the end. But it sparks that's the conflict that's carrying on within the city.
But they stay in the city walls.
Yeah, at the moment they're in the city walls. Yeah.
Do we still want to call them outsiders? As in, do they still fall in the focus even though they're living inside, or?
I mean, that's a question for later. At the moment, it's just the theme of outsiders. At this point in time, they're certainly outsiders, and certainly going forward, you can argue that people within the city certainly think of them as outsiders still, right?
Okay.
Go back where you came from. Is that right?
Yeah.
I think it is Ludo's turn to do something with those that theme now.
Yeah, and I'm gonna create a new period, and I'm gonna call it the Outsider Hero, or Outsider Heroes, which is basically it will be a period after the Sandhog's excavations, in which we have a lot of people coming into the town, and you don't know if, because enough time has passed, if they are They have been born to people that ventured out of the town. They were born to survivors. So you have this generation that has a lot of outsiders among them, and all of them tend to be heroic, not in the sense that they are good, that they are heroic, bigger than life. So we kind of have that age of heroes between that and the Great Outreach Initiative. Oh, and that is light. So after me is Dan.
Dan, if you're talking, you're muted.
Oh, thank you. I'm just looking for a appropriate period. Oh, let's see here. I think during the Great Outreach Initiative, construction of the Great Port, after the construction of the Great Port, in a very dark period, we get some, we'll call it good news for now, the discovery of other small island clans or other small groups on islands or the mainland.
And this is light, right?
Yes. Oh, thank you. I keep forgetting the tone. Great.
Okay, next is Parham, and the focus is outsiders.
Yeah, I think I'm going for and a scene. And I don't know, I hate scenes like that where they're a leading question, but let me know if this is not the right way to frame a scene.
Leading questions are absolutely appropriate.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I mean, the entire point of the scene is to answer a leading question. So,
okay.
The more leading, the best. So.
That's not okay. Great. So my scene is in the prophecy of the queen rising into power, and the scene. The question is, how does the queen use the outsiders to rise into power?
Ooh.
Because and this is the really funny thing, she does flood the tunnels. So yeah.
Oh no. I'm gonna jump on that low hanging fruit. I believe the queen blames the flooding of the tunnels on outsider radicals, on people who are infiltrating the city, and she's again, much like our current times, blames it on fictitious terrorist organizations from the outside.
Well, so this one is about how does she use them? I mean, the reason on how does she actually?
Oh, how does she use the actual outsiders? Okay,
Yeah.
I was thinking more.
Yeah, sorry,
of the...
I asked too many questions. That's my can't focus.
No, you're good.
How does she use the outsiders to get into power?
You could still say that. That's a she rides that populist.
Yeah, she riddles fear and turns the population against the outsiders, and then writes that because the government does not do anything about the outsiders.
Oh, so you mean she says outsiders are bad. Everyone who's not an outsider says yes they are, and then she floods them, and that leads to her rise to power. Would that be a good way to sum up?
Yes,
what you said,
I think so. I'd say she floods the tunnels. That's a good question. I'm not sure if she blames the flooding on the outsiders or if she says the outsiders have taken up residence in the tunnels.
Yeah.
I'll go with she frames the outsiders as having done this.
Just to take an alternative tack, she uses the outsiders to rise to power by leading a revolution of the outsiders, creating her own, taking the outsiders, turning the outsiders into her own personal military coup against the city.
Yeah. Okay.
Ooh. I'm going to say that she's an outsider herself. And because many of the heroes are also outsiders, she actually gets to a legitimate position by gathering support from different outsider clan leaders, by heroes that are either outsiders themselves or friendly to outsiders, to get into positions of power. And then she just advances that she's not only an outsider, she claims to have divine heritage, and this fits the prophecies. And because nobody knows exactly where outsider she is from, she uses this vagueness to create a strong political party of former heroes and outsider clan leaders, and manages to secure enough support to advance her claim to autocracy.
Yeah, I like this. I think this is I think this also gives us a lot to play with. So yeah, I like that one.
And what is the tone for this?
I think the whole period is pretty dark because as we're all coming to figure out, the queen is not really the lightest of queens.
So that was a scene underneath the prophecy of the Queen Ascendant, right? Yeah.
So, Will, about your question, no, I was just reminding them that it's weird, but it can happen, that you start yourself. I certainly did. I said sometimes I said something, I was like, no, this is way too much even for me. I expect
So we were taking Ludo's answer for the scene, correct? Ludo, do you want to write that in then underneath?
Yeah, I'll do that. So next is Will again. So
and I get to do my nested events if that's what I choose. Period the clan rebellion against Aka. I'm going to do an event within the arrival of the outsider heroes, and the event is going to be the city is saved from a cataclysm by the wizard, by the sorcerer, the warlock, the sorcerer, the wizard, the magister, the shaman. What do we reckon is a good one? I'm going to go with sorcerer.
Is this part of the dark magic group thingy, or?
No, this is a period, and it's the first it's the first event underneath the period of the arrival of the outsider heroes. So the anchor is going.
But I mean, this person, is he one of the group that was living in the tunnels as a dark magic practitioner, or is?
I don't believe so, because he's part of the outsider heroes.
The
so
thaumaturge.
Yeah, the thaumaturge. Yeah. Something that's going to be impossible to spell. Oh, I did it. Nice. Thaumaturge. Let's see. Thaumaturge. Aidwald. I'm literally just flicking between fantasy name generators, various Celtic, Greek, Portuguese names.
So is that light or dark?
I think that's light. But the scene is what price is paid, because magic has a price.
I'm going to go with maybe cliche, but sometimes obvious is good. Oh man, the thaumaturge. Can you pronounce the name?
Aidwald.
Aidwald. All right.
Yeah.
The thaumaturge Aidwald. In order to stave off this cataclysm, sacrifices his only progeny, his daughter, or their daughter. Do we have a gender?
Aidwald sacrifices their daughter. No, we don't. In fact, I think I'll leave it I'll leave it general where not, so that like if it does come up in Kingdom, then we have the flexibility of choosing what they are, right?
And yeah, if anyone's going to be gender non-conforming, a thaumaturge seems to be the right profession for that.
Yeah, you're right. And as for pronunciations, I do not know how to pronounce Anglo-Saxon names, so it's a guess. It's just what I like it to be.
I think I'm going for if I'm not muted.
You're not muted.
You're good.
I'm going. My suggestion would be that we that he has to choose between either that or having a famine, and then he decides to go for a famine, and that's why they start exploring outside the city.
Okay. The magic blights the food supply.
Yeah.
I would say that Endwell has to give something of themselves to LPs, and not only drains their life force, by the capricious will of the gods and the divine continent itself, it manifests as a terrifying monster that torments the countryside for years afterwards.
I do really like that. I like the idea of there being a Grendel out in the woods, and it being the byproduct of this magic. And I like the gods being involved, but I am going to have to go for magic blight in the food supply, because I like that the cost is paid by everyone rather than by Aidwald. So the magics blight the food supply for years to come.
It is one strange chronicle. I like this. Like sometimes I think we should just take some of these sessions and just write a book from them or something. It would take like a 10 series novel.
Yeah,
Microscope can certainly do that.
yeah, that was why I wanted to run the Microscope, to get material for later games.
Your book. I mean, if we can all share in the loyalties, I'm fine.
So that is the end of my turn as the lens. So
next lens, it's me again. And legacy is going to be Parham. So you can add a new legacy and add an event or scene that relates to the legacies.
And like clockwork, I'm going to run to the men's room again.
Yeah,
I'll be right back.
Let's take another break, 5 minutes, and then we can think about the focus on the legacy.
Thanks for being the break minder, Dan. I really like you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Thank my bladder.
Okay. See you in 5.
Okay, see you in 5.
Okay. I thought of a focus, and the focus is going to be monsters of LPs.
Say that again.
Monsters of LPs.
What is LPs?
it's the island.
Yeah, the name of the island, yes.
It's literally only something that I remembered by the fact that I can see the word in front of me because we've yeah. I just want to flag, guys. I can play a little bit beyond 4 o'clock, but I do have to end up sometime around there, and we don't have to go just because, like it says in the book at the end, you should like when you're coming to an end, make it clear so that we can do the full turn and everyone can have their last moment rather than having something that they wanted to hold on to.
Okay, so this will probably be the last turn. I think probably we have been taking half an hour for each turn, so this will probably be the last one.
So 4 is you're from you're in the UK time zone?
Yeah. So it's on the hour basically.
Okay. I think for the legacy, I'm going for the War of Gods. That's where I want to explain. You guys just take it, whatever.
Okay, and you're gonna add an event or a scene related to legacies?
Do you want me to read out the legacies? Just so you can have a reminder, Param?
Yes, thanks.
So the legacies are the Words of Bastion, the legendary ship Vargas, the Mound Builders, and your legacy, the War of the Gods.
Yes. Thanks. So I'm going for... I'm going to add an event to before the gods destroy themselves. I'm actually going for a scene. So how does Nemeth break the rules of the competition by destroying the city of the Ram of Ram? Because we said this only had to be indirect, or maybe there's some other rule that we didn't add before.
Yeah. So how does Nemeth's actions
break the rules of the competition? That's it.
Yeah, disrupt the divine order. Let's say.
Yeah.
The divine competition, shall we say?
We've
established that they're always in contest, but now they all lose. Like that's it's the equivalent of popping the football after scoring the last goal. You can't play anymore. It's all gone. What I would perhaps say is that the city itself was a god this whole time. And Nemeth destroys it in his arrogance and his hubris, and thus starts the Cold War goes hot and they all kill each other and once the shackles are off.
So you mean instead of indirectly doing stuff, Nemeth just attacks the thing itself, the god itself?
Yeah, blind to its true nature.
So it doesn't. The Nemeth didn't know.
Nemeth didn't know, and so because I like the idea. My idea is that perhaps what withholds the gods isn't the fact that they can't. It's like a gentleman's agreement almost,
Yeah.
It's mutually assured destruction at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Okay, it's hard to beat that one, but here's my attempt. Nemeth destroys the city, and the survivors plead to the gods by traveling to most secluded places secret to them. And they plead that because before mortals have ascended to godhood by killing so many heroes and mortals, Nemeth has killed people that were in the process of ascending themselves. And by doing so was violating the agreement to never raise power against other gods. And the discussion if this is a legitimate claim or not tears the god apart, and if leads to them turn on each other. And if that was up to debate before, that was a violation of the terms, now it's quite clear, yes, the multiple gods are infringing the breach against each other. And when the smoke clears, Nemeth is dead.
Okay, I get that one. Dan, do you have any ideas?
This may be a bit far out. I think in trying to harness some support or power from the people of the city, Nemeth appears in the flesh, which is taboo, which is incredibly forbidden among the gods, and just his presence is enough to break apart the city's foundations, to cause the city to self-destruct, I guess.
But the question's about how it destroys the gods.
Destroys the gods. Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
and
I have an
those-
idea for how that could work if you.
Okay. Hey, no, I'd
and
love to
one
hear
more,
it.
I think one more thing that I also wanted to ask is we have established that they angered the gods. So like what if
Ooh.
so if he is asking for support, he would be probably offering them something or for redemption or something like that, because yeah, if that makes sense.
That does.
My suggestion is that when Nemeth appears in the flesh, like a surviving mage or wizard uses him as a conduit to purge the heavens of the gods.
Whew. I think that's
Do I
lovely.
want to ask the price of that magic?
The immortal souls of all humanity, of course.
So there is no human ever. I think that's too dark.
No, it's there was a TV show here by the guy who did Doctor Who, believe it or not, where basically like they avert the apocalypse by getting rid of the afterlife, and so all that humans have is the life on this planet, and that's it. And that seems really terrible until you realize that like a lot of the world's problems are caused by thinking that there's a paradise beyond this one.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is, I think, maybe going slightly further than the question itself. But yeah. So, should we say that as Dan's one? If you're happy with that, Dan. That.
I think that's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, the mortals use his avatar as a conduit and strike back at the gods.
Oh, so this is actually mortals, like the remaining few mortals, just killing all the gods.
Yeah, because he was so arrogant in his power that he thought, I will appear before you directly. And then the mortals went, right, this is our chance.
Yeah. I like this. I think this is a happy ending to an otherwise unhappy ending.
So I guess it's light.
Yes, it's light. Which is weird, but it is. It is as it is.
Well, it was already under light because we said it's under the event the gods destroy themselves, and that was light. So, yeah, it worked out perfectly.
Well, technically, this is people destroying gods. This is not gods destroying.
But through their own hubris, because otherwise we would never have had the chance, right? Like when they were in heaven, we couldn't touch them, but they could touch us. But then they came down.
Yeah. One more thing, and this is a rules question. Can we go and change an event or a scene or?
No, that's what the variant Echoes is about. That's
what?
There is a variant. Yeah, there is a variant of the rules that allows you to go back and change stuff.
Okay. And we're not using that.
No, you cannot override anyone that has been previously established.
Yeah, that would be too.
I think your thumb was over your mic there for a second, Parham.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I said that would be too hectic because then your brain would, like, sometimes I find myself thinking of one of the timelines that were suggested but were not really picked. So I'm already finding it sometimes hard to figure out where we are right now. But if things changed also, then that would be like pretty much impossible.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that doesn't make sense. Okay.
Yeah. That's why I don't like that version as much. Okay, so going back, so my focus is monsters of LPs. And I guess on this point, I'm gonna have the first monster that tormented the city. And I'm gonna say that it happened during the division within the Union of Oracular Workers. So there is an event in which, in response to Midden's pride, the gods create a 12-headed monsters and set it to destroy this city and assault the city walls until Midden themselves is delivered. And the question that I'm asking as a scene within is, how is the monster dealt with?
Ooh.
Sorry, what period is this in again?
The Civil War period between the Union of Oracle Workers.
Yeah, it's an event at the end of that. Appropriate enough after Midden perverts the words of Bastion, which we know that are fake, which is fake.
How is the monster defeated?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Or dealt with.
Not defeated, dealt with.
Dealt with.
Dan points out a very important distinction.
Yeah, you're right. It's terrible. I don't think I want to go as dark as the idea I just had.
I think they just deliver Maidan.
Yeah, well, that's the positive version. That was what I started with, and then I was like, they appease it by delivering the outsiders.
Woo.
Well, the thing is, we know that they exist when the queen rises into power. So how does that?
No, I don't mean all of them. I just mean
some of. Okay.
It's their toll for living within the safety of these walls.
Okay.
But I don't. I'm a bit ambivalent about that one. The thing is that when the gods send the 12-headed monster to assault the walls of the city until Maidan is delivered to them. Now, how is the monster dealt with? The question is whether or not the people know that it's Maidan that they need to deliver to the gods.
Yeah, is this something that the gods tell them, or?
Well, the gods tell them to the people that read and interpret them, which are exactly Maidan's political enemies.
I tell you what, I'm going to go with my actual suggestion, right? Which is Maidan delivers himself because he truly loves his city.
Oh God! And then he's a martyr, and this lasts forever.
Exactly. And he becomes, and you know, when people learn the truth about Bastion and Eriza, guess which historical figure was always telling the truth, and we denied him for so long, and yet he sacrificed himself truly for us.
Oh, the politics.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I'm going to go with something incredibly light in that the monster, the 12-headed monster, is in fact tamed by some of the outsiders who have dealt with strange monsters before, and the 12-headed monster becomes a sort of mascot for the city.
Just for the sake of having everything covered, I'm going to say, what was the guy's name? So many people. Maidan gathers a group of warriors that go out, and pretty much almost all of them die, but they also end up killing the monster. But then the city ends up losing some of its best warriors.
I'm gonna go with Dan's suggestion because that is an insult to the gods, and that would be a nice tie to the eventual turn of the gods against mortals. Yeah, that they tame the monster and becomes a symbol of the outsiders within the city. Okay.
And I think it also has an undertone of rebellion against.
Yeah. Rebellion against authorities, rebellion against
and gods.
Yeah, very good. Also, rebellion of the outsider culture against the mainstream culture. Okay.
Yeah, maybe that's what gives them a bit of power, puts a bit of power behind the queen once she decides to.
Yeah. So then it's your turn now, and remember the focus is monsters of LPs.
I'm going to create a scene in the period of the Sandhogs, based on prophetic vision. Sandhogs begin excavations. Under the event, Regulo the architect is betrayed by the cult of sorceress demagogues who have claimed the tunnels. And the question for this scene is, give me a name and a brief description of the beast that the sorceress demagogues have unearthed beneath the city. I guess that's more of a command rather than a question.
I suppose to phrase it as a question is, what is the beast that they have unearthed beneath the city? Which is exactly what my idea was going to be for, for my turn. Literally, like word for word.
Apply it on another period again. I try my suggestion. It's a massive, gigantic wolf, but its head it's of a ram with 7 eyes, and it has only a single foot, and whenever it hops around, it creates earthquakes, and whenever it bleeds, it causes tsunamis.
Wow.
Do you have a name, Ludo?
Am I gonna say it's the Avarast?
Excellent.
So what we know about this group is that they were demagogues. They were people who wanted to. So what I am going to say is it is Simnu, the Dream Devourer, who wanders amongst, whose body lives within the tunnels, but whose appetite and hungers range amongst the sleeping world above her head. And the demagogues were using her to, influence the masses.
That's lovely.
I have no clue. I think we. Okay. I'm going for. I'm going for a dragon that has hoarded lots and lots and lots of gold. But pretty much no one at this time has the ability to even get past this thing. And this is me trying to set the scene for the queen flooding the...
Oh. I think I'm going to go with Sinew the Dream Devourer. That's a lovely, terrifying concept. Oh,
Why, thank you.
So next, it's Parham to bring the monsters.
I think I'm going for... I'm going for... scenes, because I'm in the clarification zone right now. So... I think when it... Okay, so this is near the end and the last period, the Revenge of the Gods. I'm going for the destruction of the Great Port. And my question is very broad, because I'm looking, and you guys can just invent a new monster if that helps. How do the people in the city enlist the aid of a monster to push back against Nemeth, who wants to pretty much, I think, flood the city? Right? Is that what Nemeth wanted to do? Because the sea domain, I'm guessing there's like a massive wave that comes in and destructs, like completely annihilates the port.
Yeah, I'm going to say that there is a titan of bronze that their fire heart has been stolen by a hero of generations past and was kept in the vaults of the city. And because the monster was created by a rival of Nemeth that has been removed from the Pantheon and dispersed by losing their games, they figured that whatever influence of that god still exists within the Bronze Titan. So they reawaken the Titan in the hopes that it reminds enough of its divine birth.
Creator.
Yeah, and turns against Nemeth.
Okay.
I am going to say a Leviathan carries survivors away from the city. And it is bound by, one of the last thaumaturges, essentially. But it's a case of they, hide within the belly of the whale to escape the wrath of the gods.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, creating monsters is hard.
It is. Ooh. I'm going to say a breed of magically enlarged moles are enlisted and trained to, or incorporated in an effort to move as much earth and stone as is possible to sturdy up the city's walls and architecture? In opposition to the flooding
to the
and
force
the
of it, yeah. I think I'm going to go for wheels, just because I like the idea of people hiding in a massive creature, which is usually evil, escaping the right under the gods' noses. I think that's a cool idea.
Cool. I have written that up as a Leviathan is bound by a sorcerer at the cost of his life. Survivors flee within its belly.
Okay.
Does that make it my go now? I think it does, right?
Yeah. I think that's fine.
I really want to flesh out that clan rebellion against Arcana, but I'm not sure if that's what I actually want to do with monsters as a theme.
So remember, Ludo, when you're writing the book, that's something that you should fill in yourself.
I think, like, the discoveries of the small survivor groups on the mainland, I think what I'm going to ask is, how do these survivors hold back the monsters of wait, Etis is the island, isn't it? Not the continent. Is that right? Elpis is the island?
Yeah, it's an island continent. So.
All right. So when we say the mainland, it can be the monsters of Elpis, basically. Yeah. So how do these small survivor groups hold back the monsters without their great walls and their city and their resources?
Yeah, but you did that during the... Yeah. So you did that on the survivors before they arrived to the island, right? That is the question, right? I'm understanding the
No, the discoveries of other small survivor groups on the mainland, I suppose, is what I'm asking. How do they hold back the monsters? And I suppose if the monsters are only on Elpis, then they're not on the mainland, are they? Is that right?
Well, something causes the apocalypse.
Okay, then yeah. How do the survivors? How do these groups survive in a world? I'm going to. How do these groups survive in a world of monsters?
I'm going to tie with the question that we established later, that they actually the outsiders use their secrets to tame the monsters. So I'm going to say that the survivors organize themselves in small clans and tribes, each of them tied to a monster protector. And each of them has ancient pacts, well, 1 or 2 generations, pacts with the monster which took and protected them from the whatever chaos and devastation was happening, and that their survival until now will not depend on that. So they have shaped their culture around their ties with their respective monstrous protector.
I like that. This reminds me very much of a legacy family, like a clan.
I think my idea would be that they have, like, and we can, like, if you decide to go with this, we can maybe flesh this out later. Either taming is a skill or taming is a magic, and outsiders have people who know how to do this, and usually they become like little tribe leaders, mostly because whoever hangs around them is pretty much safe, and they're very nomadic and move around, and they're very small communities. I think I agree with that.
Yeah, I think so. I had been moving towards maintaining a nomadic lifestyle, trying to move away from monsters and remain as discreet as possible whenever any settling down occurs. So they hide. They try their best to hide from the monsters with limited success.
There's something I like about the mundanity of that practicality. Like we just run and hide, and it works. But I am gonna go. I like the idea of packs with the great monsters, because I think it has a kind of parallel to how the gods treat humans in this world. And the only way we've survived for that long. Yeah. So one thing that's been we've been wondering about is, do scenes have to involve the anchors as well, or just events? Because I suppose ultimately what we're saying in this case is, how do these groups survive in a world of monsters?
I thought
Admiral Voorhees has discovered that this is how they survive in a world of monsters, by their packs. So
yeah, I think only the events are really locked to the anchors.
Cool. Okay. Well, that is me done then, and it is back to Ludo for the cap.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that we're gonna have these as on the arrival of the outsider heroes. I'm gonna add an event about that the gods send a multi-headed giant to stalk the streets of Creustos at night, and it kills anyone that they suspect to have divine blood. And there's also a scene which is, how does Arcana defeat this divine assassin?
Which period was that under?
So it will be during the arrival of the outsider heroes.
Right. So Thaumaturge Aidwald has to be a part of this in some way. Okay.
Maybe he has divine heritage.
Sorry.
I'm going to suggest that Thaumaturge Aidwald identifies everyone with divine blood, and they feed it to the monster to rid the city of the collateral damage.
That's definitely a way to deal with it.
That escalated very quickly.
So
can't they use the dream monster thingy to give the other monster nightmares so that they don't do it?
Sure. What is exactly your suggestion then?
So like they use the what's that creature's name? The monster that can go into the
Simnu.
Yeah. They use that to give this monster illusions of, oh yeah, there is someone with the divine blood here, and they pretty much like guide it away bit by bit through like several days away from the city.
And how is the thaumaturge involved in that?
Isn't Eightwold part of that group that unearthed this?
No,
thing?
he's an outsider hero.
Sorry, I got the wrong period then.
But he could easily
convince this thingy.
He's a mighty powerful wizard. He can do what he likes, right? You know, he can discover the cult and bind Simnu to his will or whatever, right?
Yeah. Or maybe just go straight against the monster and bind that to his will, if that's what it takes. Yeah, I think I'm going for him not destroying it. He just pulls it away. Maybe, I don't know, maybe he just magically binds up the creature and drops it off. But there is definitely a cost to that, and I'm wondering what the cost of that would be. Maybe wait, let me look around in the period to see if any of the events give me some idea of what could happen. So this is after they get this thing. Oh yeah. I don't know. We've already done the blight, so this is.
I mean, the price can be very abstract if you wanted to. It could be like
Arcana
memories. Yeah. Memories, promised words, feelings. What does the city sacrifice? But yeah. But ultimately what you're saying is thaumaturge Eidwald binds the creature using his magics.
Yeah, and I think this the price they pay is the curse that because this person is an outsider, right? It's a curse that one of them will lead the city to its doom in the future, which would be the Queen's Rising. So I think that that they get cursed by the gods, that one of the outsiders will one day destroy the city.
All right, so perhaps they don't know the price at the time. Like it feels as though there was no price, and it troubles it troubles Eidwald.
More
deeply.
like maybe they know that they have been cursed, and there's like this suspense for years on what it is, and eventually they like once it happens they figure it out.
Or maybe that the paranoia of the curse is what leads Arcana to seize power, because she thinks when it hits, it's going to be a big one, and she does not realize that she is the curse.
Yeah, I like that one.
Okay, so Dan, what is your idea?
I think Arcana and Thaumaturge Eidwald, realizing that Eidwald is of divine heritage, decide to make the sacrifice of Eidwald's life and their shared love for each other by weaving a spell that infuses Eidwald's blood with a terrible poison, and Eidwald wanders outside the city as bait for this beast and is eaten, and doses this monster with a terrible venom, with a terrible poison.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that one because I want to have Arcana like I sacrificed everything for this city. Also because it mirrors the idea that we were going to go with the same the false Midon, and we ended up not going. So yeah, it has echoes of that. So let's go with that one.
I mean, now that I think about it, maybe she's not as bad as we thought she is.
She just misunderstood. Okay.
Hey, no evil for evil's sake, and no true heroes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like that makes sense on why she puts her statue next to the gods, because she's defying them. Like, yeah, send me monsters, I'll poison it.
Yeah. So, Will, you get to make the last legacy.
Cool. Well, I will not change my legacy. I will just do something that relates to one of our old ones. I will do the legendary ship Vargas. I'm going to do it in the clan rebellion against Arcana. It's going to be an event, and the event is the clans seize the ship Vargas and set sail for their own destiny.
And when is that?
That is in the period the clan rebellion against Arcana.
Oh.
No, I thought you said, where is that? And I was like, I wanted to ask that, but figured that's the same.
Oh yeah, no, it's just an event. So that's, yeah.
Well, that was over. So let's do a quick debrief. So some stars and wishes. So I'll start. Stars, everyone. For being patient, I was a bit rusty, but yeah, everyone brought their A game. Everyone was always on point on answering that. Everyone really worked well with the things that the others added. There's a lot of yes and. So yeah, I actually, yeah, big stars for that. And actually, there was a lot of timelines that we ended up not going that I kind of regret it, but I'm happy about it because, you know, we got to see different angles and took the ones that pleased us the most. So yeah.
I did not realize that this game could cause so much joy in me. So many feelings for not having any sort of player characters or any particular thing or person I identify with. And Will, I want to thank you especially for reminding me that sometimes it's much more fun for the scenes to be dark.
I think the game is a very consensus-driven game, and it's really, really important that everyone is on the same page and willing to follow. Like, basically, a lot of times your ideas aren't picked, and you have to follow the group consensus. And what I see in real life is that people don't always do that. Their ego is pretty much tied to their ideas. I think if you have even one of these in your group, this game is going to fall apart. I'm really surprised by how well we work together. And I wish you guys were my colleagues. I think I would have a much better time.
Ain't that the mood?
For me, I loved it. I thought we went in loads of places I didn't expect us to go, and we stayed very mythic and deep. I thought magic would be a greater part of things. One thing that I would have loved to have done more would be to explore kind of the common folk of the city. You know, like the majority of people, but and just to go back to Microscope as a game, I think it's something that you can't really do without having played it at least once. But cutting down on the discussion that we go through for everything, because like one thing it says in the game is like, on a round you choose what you're doing, and it's not really there to be like back and forth. But I think it takes a while to get your head around that level of the open ambiguity of everything in Microscope, because like you're building upon what everybody else has done, and then you've got the weight of what you're going to say is then going to change everybody else's decisions and even the frame by which everything is done. So I don't say anything it's a bad thing, but it's an interesting thing to be decisive in your own turns and then roll with that, right? Like, rather than ask these open questions, which I enjoy going back and forth with other people about, like, I enjoy it a lot, but also like there's another level of enjoyment in, okay, they said that, so I'm going to have to change my thing into this,
Okay,
I love it. Like, it's a great game, and thank you very much, Ludo.
Yeah, I guess that's also a similar dilemma that I have with the quiet tier, You're also supposed to do whatever you do in your turn, but there's always ends up, to be some compromise and some conversation. So wishes. Well, I wish to see this more developed. I'll be running next week a Kingdom game on this, and I guess we're gonna get on that more ground level perspective, because one of the factions is exactly the population of the city. So I'm looking forward to that. Oh, and I'm also welcome to the Gauntlet. I forgot that we have new Gauntlet tiers. So I hope to have you guys in other games.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I'm signed up for your Kingdom game next week. I'm very excited.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I have not played Kingdom in a while too. I think I have played more Microscope more recently than Kingdom. But I need to review that.
Yeah, let me know if anyone doesn't show up.
Yeah, just
are you waitlisted to it, Parham?
Yeah,
no, but now I'm going to go find it.
Yeah.
I
recommend waitlisting to everything that you're interested in, because you never know.
You never know. Also,
some of them have like 7 people whitelisted, and I'm like, even if people change twice, I'm not gonna make.
You can be surprised. You can be surprised, because especially if it's on the last moments, then
okay.
Then people, they go ahead, but they already have scheduled something else.
Yeah.
So really, even if there's a lot of people and they really want to play on that slot and that game, just
okay.
Yeah. And this is a question for Parham, really, but how did you find this with obviously because I can read the whole thing by looking at it, but obviously that's not the case for you. Did you still find you're able to keep on top of all of the stuff?
I think if I knew the format of the game, I would have made a few suggestions to you guys on how you can help me navigate. Mm-hmm. I think the fact that you were writing things down gave me 100% time to keep looking at the document and figuring out, okay, what happens? Let me refresh my memory on this period and stuff like that. So I think it really helped that, Will, you wrote down things for me. I'm going to keep this in mind for later games, because I think if I don't have to find the right place and write it down, then I can spend that time looking at what we have so far. So that's great. But the fact that we were going with bullet points and visiting and revisiting very often, even if I missed something, it made it, and the timeline was very coherent. That's why I was filling in with a lot of events, because the more I can make it make sense in my own head, the more I can remember and not have to go back and look. So I think this worked out really well for me. So this wasn't stressful or, oh God, I can't handle this at all. So thanks a lot for all the help, everyone.
Cool. Thanks for playing.
We are able to do this for you. Anyone else wants to do anything before signing off? Okay. Is everyone okay that if I put this up online on the Gauntlet?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay. Have a nice weekend.
Thanks, you too. Thanks for organizing this.
Bye.
Peace out, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.